So next month, we'll see Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer experience shown off at Call of Duty Next, along with what seems to be some reveals for Warzone 2 as well as Warzone Mobile. But shortly thereafter, like quite literally 24 hours after the reveal of Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer at Next, we'll be able to start jumping into Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer beta. Now, details are still few and far in between for what exactly we'll be able to see in terms of maps, modes, weaponry, progression, and all, but recently it was announced that for the first time ever in any beta of Call of Duty, going all the way back to the original beta for Black Ops 3 in 2015, that we'll be able to use some cosmetic items in the beta. Those that have pre-ordered the Vault edition of Modern Warfare 2 will be getting early access to see the Red Team 141 pack in action for the operators of Ghost, Farah, Price, as well as Soap, and the brand new feature called the FJX Cinder Weapon Vault, a brand new type of weapon customization. So with that in mind, what's the difference between this new weapon vault and what we already see right now? At first glance, it looks like another blueprint, right? Well, today we're breaking down what we know, how these things differ, and honestly, something I'm a little bit worried about for Modern Warfare 2's future, moving forward past just the launch of the game and into the year's post-launch support. So as we go along, drop your thoughts down below. Are you liking the idea of weapon vaults and how they'll work? Are you a bit worried they may be taken too far? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts below. If you enjoyed the video, you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, do be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay updated with all things Modern Warfare 2, with the official multiplayer reveal coming next month, followed by the beta and then the launch just over 2 months away now at this point. A ton of stuff on the horizon, so make sure you're here so you don't miss a single thing. And finally, for another 24 hours or so, my friends at G Fuel have bumped up code Espresso to 30% off. So if you guys want to grab a restock, try anything out for the very first time, now is as best a time as any. Personally, I'd recommend the Morbius Nectarine flavor, Hype Sauce, as well as Starfruit. Those are probably my top 3 right now. Can't go wrong with any of those. If you're interested, link in the description below. Oh, and last thing, sorry, we've been streaming a lot more over on Twitch lately, so if you guys would ever like to drop by and say hi and chat about anything, I'd love to have you in that community that we're growing over there as well, linked in the description. But anyways, all that out of the way, let's talk about these weapon vaults. So to understand weapon vaults, we kind of have to start at the very beginning where it all began in Modern Warfare 2019. This introduced us to the Gunsmith, a brand new way to create your weapons and your classes overall. The Gunsmith really tried to build out Infinity Ward's vision for a unique weapon for every operator, every single player, allowing hundreds and thousands of combinations of your weapon builds based upon weapon attachments. You can make a build for basically any way you wanted to play. Your straightforward Slayer of an M4 build, sure thing, but if you wanted to use a suppressed M4 with a sniper scope, bipod, no stock, and 458 SOCOM rounds, now I'm not saying that you should do that, but you could, and that was the entire principle of the thing. And to take it a step further, Infinity Ward created blueprints instead of camos as cosmetics, or maybe Activision did for the sake of monetization, or maybe both, but point being again, it was a customization trend to push that uniqueness of weapons in droves, because unlike camos seen before Modern Warfare 2019, the cosmetic camo patterns of blueprints were beholden to the attachments that came pre-equipped on said weapon blueprint. If you change that attachment, you lost that cosmetic design. Now, perhaps initially this may not have been too much an issue. The initial blueprints for Modern Warfare 2019 were rather tame, truly just kind of rough camo patterns or barely anything in cosmetics, but by the time that the store was introduced in Season 1, December of 2019, well, of course, the more flashy items were coming around, and that's when people really started to notice the error of the design, fundamentally speaking, for how blueprints worked. That's unfortunately something we saw carry over into Black Ops Cold War the year following, and this year again with Vanguard, all connected throughout that Warzone era. So that leads us to today, weapon vaults. Up until this point, it has been acknowledged by developers that that's something that they wanted to try and mitigate. They wanted to get rid of that sort of changing the attachment, changes the entire look of the weapon. They knew of that. So weapon vaults seem to be that answer. All we know right now is it's a brand new feature, officially speaking. We don't have any specific details granted from the official Call of Duty blog, other than the image that was associated with the Vault Edition. And from the looks of it, it appears to be a way to keep cosmetic design through any attachment changes on that specific weapon. We don't know if that's all that it will include, but it's what it looks like at this point. For all we know, it also could go a little bit further in depth, maybe unlocking additional variants from the Gunsmith progression tree and system that we talked about here on the channel recently. But for the time being, all we can really infer at face value is that it looks to keep the cosmetic design across all attachments for a weapon, regardless if we change out on that weapon build. Now, here's the catch though. Initially, when we learned about this, I kind of assumed, and I'm sure that a lot of people did as well, that comparing this to pre-launch bonuses that we'd seen before the last 3 years and the additions that we got, that this would be pretty straightforward, right? I mean, each of the highest tiered versions of the game came with blueprints in prior titles of Vanguard, Cold War, and Modern Warfare 2019. That maybe this weapon vault would be the new introduction here at this. Having heard that developers wanted to get rid of that sort of changeover that occurs when changing attachments, maybe this is something that fixed that, but was the blueprints moving forward. board, differently termed to avoid any confusion given the fact that Warzone 1 and the last 3 years of games aren't just going to be thrown to the wind initially. You'll still very much so be able to play with them and interact with your blueprints and everything in your armory. So like a new era, new generation, new 3-year or more cycle of content, maybe that changes the fundamentals of how that system erroneously worked by calling it something new, right? Well, unfortunately, no. Right after their introduction, studio art director at Infinity Ward, Joel Emsley, had clarified a bit more in terms of what this was at a base level. He stated, "This is an extremely rare style of weapon blueprint category. More details to come." And while we await more details, perhaps as early as intel drops leading up to the reveal of Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer, since we will see them in the beta, it sure seems like one is not actually replacing the other. Instead, the two will seemingly coexist, one being much more rare, perhaps like an ultra-level designation of one, and the other just being what we see normally. So with that in mind, where do we go from here? Well, truth be told, that's where it becomes truly uncharted territory. When Emsley mentions that it's an extremely rare style of weapon blueprint, that makes it sound like much more than just what we've seen previously. Like I said, my mind immediately goes to, when we talk about rare, things like the ultra level designation that we now have with certain mastercrafts from Vanguard and Cold War. We didn't see a ton of them, but by year's end for each game, we had half a dozen, 2 dozen, depending on what game across the board. Not per weapon, but overall in each game. It's quite possible this could be the same thing, but why is it concerning at that point? Why am I somewhat nervous here for it? On one hand, I don't know that I should be worried that maybe I'm preparing for the worst while hoping for the best, because each of these ultra-level mastercrafts we've seen have been introduced post-launch in the exact same way. Shop bundles of the same cost as regular featured bundles of $20. And I'm absolutely with you before we get into any of that discussion that I really do hope we can earn these in-game, but when we look at how blueprints have turned out, even if we can earn them in-game for no charge whatsoever, we'll definitely see additional ones being monetized to some capacity. That's just the way it is. And when I mentioned that $20 price point, that's also my unfortunate optimistic side of that monetization discussion, because when you mention a category that is extremely rare, that opens up Pandora's box for all kinds of corporate marketing. And while we've seen in Warzone 1 in the last 2 years, everything stayed $20 max, no matter what level of blueprint per featured, my big fear is that these will be exempt by that logic. I mean, we've kind of seen it done before. We had the $40 Tagger versus Big Joke bundle. Granted, that did come with 5,000 COD points, so like the skins were kind of air quote free. You were buying $40 worth of COD points, but it seemed to be that sort of push towards, okay, would people buy a higher priced bundle? And it's not the only time we've seen this in the gaming space overall. One of the ones that I don't quite engage with, I don't play the game all that much, but I have a couple of friends that religiously play it, is Valorant. If I'm not mistaken, specific weapons in like one weapon skin alone can go from anywhere from like $12 to $30 or so, but bundles can go even higher of like $60 to $70. So my big fear is that this is now a stepping stone where Call of Duty, it seems like maybe in the future going towards more free-to-play stuff, whether that be with Warzone 2 here, if they make DMZ free-to-play in some capacity, maybe just for the sake of including and capturing as many players as possible, maybe the next couple of years Call of Duty goes free-to-play. But if that's the case, they're going to need to supplement revenue elsewhere, which means that we're going to see more things likely monetized in the process, and cosmetics are one of the big things that are a target. So my fingers crossed that we don't see this get out of hand, but being that it's a feature that people have asked for since the very beginning with blueprints and their introduction in Modern Warfare 2019, I'm just worried that this is going to be that stepping stone, that first push-off point, and I don't want it to get to that. So while in theory and while in concept, these weapon vaults absolutely could be something awesome, I'm just very much so worried for what it means and the fine print of it all. Of course, we don't have the details officially just yet, so maybe I'm worrying for nothing, but until we get some clarification, some solid answers, I'll probably be here worrying about the future of them. So wanted to fill you guys in here because I saw a lot of people talking about this recently in some comments, got a couple of tweets across the past couple of weeks about it, and so wanted to clarify it for anybody that didn't quite see this whenever it was revealed, didn't see the details, that this will be playable in the beta if you do end up having the Vault Edition, having access to that very first weapon vault and what it may entail. But wanted to fill you guys in and keep you in the loop with everything, but also maybe set some expectations for the long run, because while we have a lot of cool things to look forward to, of course, it's Call of Duty. Something's going to happen that's not going to please everybody. So just to go in with as much a level head as possible, keep this option on the table that hopefully it doesn't happen, but just in case. But that said, that's what we're going to call it. So let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think that the weapon vaults will only be this sort of cosmetic continuity between attachments whenever you take and change any different different attachment on a weapon? Or do you think it'll involve some of the progression system and the underlying weapon variants that we can end up earning through unlocks of the base weapon? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. And do you think this will be something that's monetized a little higher, or do you think it'll be something that's just like the normal shop we have now? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, it answered any questions for you, do me a favor and drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel and like to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 2 ahead of the next event, the beta, and of course the launch to follow in just a little bit of time, make sure that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. We're gearing up for the busy portions of the year, so I'd love to have you in the community. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.